Good morning, everybody. Well, it's morning where I am. I don't know where you are. I'm going to do a review today on Life, a User's Manual, which is a book which I picked up because it's written by Julian Baggini. Also, this one's co-authored. So this is Julian Baggini and Antonio Maccaro. I don't know anything by Antonio Maccaro, but I've read a few of Julian Baggini's books more than once. I discovered him last year, I think, and everything I've read from him is brilliant. It's clearly written, it's easy to understand, and it's a gym for the mind. You think better, you understand things better, you make faster, maybe not better decisions because your decisions depend on, to some degree anyway, depend on the outcome of those decisions. But there's a process to making decisions. So if you followed the right process, your decision was good, you know. And a good decision is one which is likely, given all the evidence available, to lead to a good outcome. And then you have to define your good outcome. But let's get back to the book. So, Life, a User's Manual is essentially a book with topics arranged in alphabetical order. And for each topic, the writers look at what philosophers have said about it over the centuries to give you an understanding of what the topic is, how to deal with the topic, how you might want to deal with the topic. So it's more like a guidebook. Well, I guess it's called a user's manual. So it's more like a guidebook to how to deal with everything in life. I think it's absolutely brilliant. And what's interesting is when you're considering any information, you have to consider the source it came from. So, for example, if somebody like, I don't know, let's give a common example. There's lots of politicians who you're stupid if you believe. And if they say something, you know it's probably bullshit. They're doing it to further their aim or further their backer's aim. They don't give a damn about you. That's another discussion entirely. Let's read the reviews on the back. Life doesn't come with an instruction manual, but Baggini and Maccaro's book, building on the wisdom of thousands of years of philosophy, comes pretty close to it. That's by Massimo Pigliucci, author of The Stoic Guide to a Happy Life. I haven't read that one. Then you've got An Inspired Navigation Tool for the Maze of Existence. That's by Robin Ice, author of I'm a Joke and So Are You, Reflections on Humour and Humanity. This fascinating book is as close as you'll get to hiring history's wisest minds as your personal life advisors. That's by Oliver Burkeman, author of The Antidote, Happiness for People Who Can't Stand Positive Thinking. I haven't read that, but I've read his books, 4,000 Weeks and Meditations for Mere Mortals, which are both really good. So it actually says on the front, I've just noticed, An Absolute Joy, and that's by Oliver Burkeman as well. So all round, good reviews. I thought it was great. Getting back to it, looks at the philosophers' lives as well. One of the sections on there is about money and wealth. A lot of philosophers had very boring, predictable things to say about money, along the old Christian idea of, it's the root of all evil, which isn't really the Christian idea. The Christian idea is the love of money is the root of all evil. I'd update that as the love of money above all other things is the root of all evil. But anyway, so these philosophers who said you don't need money, money is vile and everything. People like Aristotle, who was actually from a rich background and had slaves, so never needed to work, so it was easy for him to say that toiling for money is foolish. People like, I think it was Hume, who apparently gave up all his money. He gave it to his siblings, so he still had access to it. The only philosopher who's actually mentioned in here, who's recently said anything that I strongly agree with about money, is look, if you want to do good, you don't have to hate money, because the more money you have, the more good you can do by giving it away to worthy causes or helping people. I think he hits the nail on the head. So there's one in here as well about the topics covered. The topics covered are relevant topics. It's not all philosophical ideas. People get the wrong impression, I think, of what philosophy is for. Philosophy is, like I said, a gym for the mind. It makes your thinking better. It gives you exercises for becoming a better thinker. Why do you want to become a better thinker? Because philosophy was around before we had experiments, before we had measurements, before we had test tubes and laboratories. So the laboratory was the mind. You take concepts, you think about them deeply, you observe, and you conduct mental thought experiments to arrive at good solutions. So a person who partook in philosophy was probably a better thinker than most, therefore they were wise. And then it's not just about thinking, you know, you have the idea of the philosopher who just sits in the corner thinking and never doing anything. The Greeks, I think it was, for example, they had phronesis, which is practical wisdom gained through doing things, and that gives them, you know, that makes them good. That makes them good thinkers because they've got the experience, they've got the know-how, they know how to communicate it, they can consider all sides of an argument. But it's hard to actually explain this book. You know, if I go to the contents page, right, which is about 6 pages long, so in A, these are all the topics they discuss and give you philosophical insights into and give you ideas for how to think about them. A, achievement, addiction, afterlife, aging, aloneness, alternative medicine, altruism, ambition, ambivalence, anger. Skip forward a bit, let's go to O, office politics. There you go, there's something that's real and everyday, and you know, it's quotidian, it's not something that's just going to be for philosophers to think about, it's for everybody. Optimism, other people, pain, parenthood, pornography, values, vanity, social media. Social media is in there. There you go. That's not something from ancient Greece, is it? Suicide. That was an interesting one to read. Worrying, temptation. Really good book. The reason I'm finding it difficult to actually pick up a strain and go with it is because each chapter isn't that long, but it's got a load of knowledge in it. So this is almost like a microcosm of a giant library. You know, to really digest that whole library, it takes a lot of work. This is the kind of book I'll go back and read again and again in between other books. I just pick up off the shelf and read a few sections. That's the nice thing about a lot of Bagini's books. Makarov I can't speak about because I've only read this by him. I don't know any. I'm saying him. Is it a man or a lady? Antonia. I'm not sure. So sorry if I got it wrong. But it's a book to just delve into. It's almost like having an AI bot every time you've got an issue. Or what about money? What about how should I feel about this? What should I think about that? But a great book. This is like a carry around or keep on your shelf. Don't carry around, whatever. Companion for life. Discover the wise counsel of the years of philosophy on the joy and the challenge of being human. From Voltaire on optimism to Simon de Beauvoir on imposter syndrome and Confucius on office politics. There is a user's manual to navigating life's big questions from those who spent their lives answering them. Highly recommended. Nice little introduction to philosophy as well. And on the back of this, there's a few other philosophers I want to read about or read the works of. And what's nice is at the end of it, there's a little guide actually called Philosophy Where to Start, which suggests a few books to get into, talks about different philosophers and how to get into their work, because a lot of philosophers wrote a lot of stuff that's very difficult to understand. But I definitely recommend it. You don't have to be into philosophy. This is the kind of book that if you weren't into philosophy would probably open your eyes to it. It's like having gone through life and never trying French cuisine because I don't know, you don't like the French flag or you don't like, you know, anything, and then one day you try it and you think, actually this is pretty good, I want to try more of this, I want to know more of this. That's what Julian Bagini has been like as far as philosophy goes. Although I did read a lot of philosophers before, I just never understood them on a level that I understand them now, and therefore I wasn't able to use the information, use the insights. You know, philosophy is not a story that you read. Philosophy is tools given to you to think with. And initially I was just picking up the tools and admiring them and feeling clever and putting them down. But with Julian's work, it's actually, it's like, this is what this tool is for. Now have a go. And hang on, I've got a new skill here, and this is useful. I can now do this that I wasn't able to do before. I can navigate this better, whereas I always used to get lost. That's what these books are like, and this is a good example of that. So go ahead and buy it if you want something to read. Go ahead and read it, borrow it. I'll give it, should I give it a 10? I don't know. It's quite long, so that might not be for everybody. The reading style, the writing style is very clear. It's humorous where it needs to be without being silly. And there's a ton of useful info in it, and it's an entertaining read. So I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. There you go.